What's up, nerds? How's it going? So I have been running some numbers with my gay AI assistant, and we're gonna figure out how impressive my gayness is. I'm a gay top, by the way. Gay top in Des Moines, number one. I've seized the title of number one gay in Des Moines. The number one gay in the number one the number one butt plugger in Des Moines. Fact. So let's go over that. Chat GPT, it's me again.
I knew it was you. You
Okay,
keep me
okay,
on
okay, okay. So all right. So what's the amount of people in Des Moines again? The Des Moines metro area.
the Des Moines metro area is sitting at about 737,000 people. So
Wow,
you've got
wow. Okay, so and what was the number that we came to regarding how many gays there are in total in Des Moines?
we landed on roughly 8,500 gay men in that 18.
Wow, wow, 8,500. And so we also talked about what the split is between the tops, the bottoms, and the versatile crowd. And we came to the conclusion that it's a third, a third, a third, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
We
and
went
so what is a third of the gays in Des Moines?
a third of that 8,500 is about 2,833.
Okay.
So
And then let's have the versatile and add it to the one of the thirds. So there you go. Can you do that?
absolutely, half of 2,833 is about 1417. Add that to another third, 2,833 plus 1417, and you get about 4,250.
Okay, so that's a third of the gays plus a half of a third of gays.
Exactly. You took one full third and added half of another third.
Okay, and what was the
Basic.
number again?
That number again is 4,250.
Okay,
Easy to keep.
okay, 4,250. Okay, so there's a potentially Chat GPT. There are 4,250 gay men in Des Moines, basically who are either willing to or do
In
have sex with men in their butts. Is that correct?
Well, you're summing up hypothetical preferences from a rough guess. My guidelines won't let me talk about that.
Okay.
Can I help you with something else?
Okay, no, then we're good. All right, so apparently he can't talk about gay stuff, even though Sam Altman, my future boyfriend, billionaire, is gay. 4,250. So there are 4,250 gay butt pluggers in Des Moines, and your humble host here, have claimed, not without not without reason, I have claimed the number one status. So number one of 4,250. I think that's pretty impressive. One in 4,250. And then what did he say the number was for the amount of people in Des Moines? 700,000. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Anyway, yeah, I have that on all of my, or not all of mine. There's Grinder and Sniffies, and I put that I'm the number one top in Des Moines, and it is basically one in, I guess, between 4,000 and 5,000. It sounds like, and I just wanted to know like the raw numbers of it all. Anyway, so now we know. um, anyway, I have a story that I want to talk about in regards kind of to that subject. So yesterday, um, I was looking at grinders and sniffies to get gay, and eventually it took me a couple hours. I wasn't constantly scrolling and looking on sniffies and grinder, but I had them both up and running, and I was responding to people who were interested. And of course, it's always fatty fats, or um, you know it's just Grinder I'm sure they mean it to be like grinding, like sexually, but it's like really a grind. I mean, you scroll through the fucking app and you're looking for guys you find, remotely attractive, because I mean, you have your ideals, and then you slowly work your way down, and usually you get to about the third or fourth tier before you get any bites. Occasionally, you'll get a bite at the top. Occasionally, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, but average. It's about, you find an average looking person. Anyway, yesterday, I got hit up. I got hit up after looking for hours. Some guy messaged me, super enthusiastic. Uh, so that tells me immediately, because he didn't have any information. He was just like super enthusiastic, throwing pictures at me, which were, you know, okay. I mean, he had a okay body, an average body. I suppose for Des Moines it was better than average. Like skinny fat, not fat, but not skinny. Anyway, but I mean, it was acceptable. It was acceptable. It was doable. So I'm like, sure. And he's like, can I come over in like 2 hours? Because that's when I get off work. And I'm like, sure. And that never works out. But he, God damn it, he messaged me like an hour and a half later, and he's like, "Do you still want me to come over?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And so he comes over, and he walks in, and he has like some facial hair, but it's not like super. I don't want to say developed, but it's the it's the it's the it's the it's okay. So he didn't look super young, but like his feature, like he had features that were young, but I mean he looked like, he was definitely older than 18. He just looked like, I don't know, younger. He had like a young vibe about him. Like the enthusiasm was there, and the ignorance and enthusiasm was there, basically. So he was all about me. I was his dream come true, not to brag. And so we start in on it, and he brought over a condom, which is fine, and I I put it on, and the condom that he brought over was like one of the free ones they hand out, probably in high school, and and it was like a Trojan E&Z. Oh, you don't know what that means because you're not a giant whore like me. Let me explain it to you. Okay, a Trojan E&Z is like a traditional Trojan, and it is like very, very. It's. I mean, if you have like trouble arriving too quickly with your lady friend or your gentleman friend, put on a Trojan E&Z, because if you don't feel anything basically. Anyway, I put it on, and I didn't. I mean, first of all, he was very, very. I could tell not only from me, and after I started in on him, I could tell, just physically speaking, he was not the most experienced gentleman in the world, and I was beginning to start to question the age. But again, I wouldn't have. I mean, he looked mature. He just kind of like, there was kind of like, I don't know. He was very. It was weird. I mean, he didn't look young, but he looked like he was. I don't know. I don't know what it was. He didn't look like a child. He just didn't look like he was ready for the experience, basically. Anyway, I started in on him, and and it was, I like to enjoy myself when I um, go to town. Basically, I like to enjoy the experience, and the E and Z, or not the E and Z, the condom that he brought over was, I mean, it helped me out. So I was barely feeling anything, and I had a I had some medical assistants helping me out in the old bloodstream, if you know what I mean. And I was just I was going and I was doing my moves, and I was basically I was treading that path, so to speak, for probably about 10 minutes. And he was you know I don't want to say it, but I'll say it. He went from he went from this to maybe like that. He was, and so it was like, it went from it was to that basically. It was basically, it went to that basically. I don't want to get graphic on your ass, but I did my job. I did my job as a top, the number one top in Des Moines. That's what you do. That's what the bottom's like a good stretching, because I mean, have you ever taken a big, I'm sure you have. I hope you have. Have you ever taken a big dump? Like, have you ever sat on the toilet and just went, and it like just didn't want to come out, and you were just like struggling and like shifting your butt and just trying to get it to fall out. Maybe you're going like this, kind of like, gravity, please help me out. And then finally, plunk. And then maybe the water flicked up at your butthole. Okay. And so after that happened, your stretched out butthole. Now let's be honest. Let's be honest, gentlemen. And God, I hope if you're a lady, you need to review your choices in life, man. But if so, your butthole, it was stretched out, and it feels, let's be honest, it feels pretty good to have a stretched out butthole. Am I right? Am I right? Am I right? Okay, so that is the job of the top. A good top stretches out the old butthole. Now some bottoms will arrive while you're doing them, but very few. When it comes to bottoming, it's more about the psychological aspect of it, and the stretched out butthole. And the stretched out butthole, by the way, when you take a shit, when you take a big old dump, like that stretched out butthole feeling, it might last for like 5 or 10 minutes, but it goes away. But when you get a good bone in, when you get a good in your, when you go from this to this, when by the end when the top is just like, can go like this, no resistance at all. After since you have a really loosened butthole, I know. Is anyone still watching? After you have a really loose, after your butthole has been loosened by getting done in the butt, it stays pretty loose for a while. And anyway, I did my job, and I was just no problem whatsoever. And this guy, he wasn't a virgin, but he told me he wasn't a virgin. He might have lied. I lied the first time. And so, anyway, we were doing it, and I was in the groove. I was in the groove, and it's like, okay, he's good. I'm gonna try to arrive now. And so, all right, I said, okay, I'm getting ready to, and he's like, he wanted me to, how do I put this? He wanted the full experience, basically, with me. He wanted all of me, So I was like, oh, sweet. I don't have to worry about, like, somehow, because I was going to have to go hard, really hard, and I didn't want to hurt this guy, this mature adult man. I did not want to hurt this guy, but I was going to have to, like, really start pounding away in order to finally arrive. But he was like, he wanted me to, um, take it off. He wanted me to take it off, take the condom off. So I was like, okay. So I slipped it right out, no problem there. And I'm taking it off, and of course it's like, fused to my, it's fused to me basically. And while I'm taking it off, it falls apart anyway. And that happens a lot, by the way. It breaks at the base a lot, or sometimes at the tip a lot. It happens a lot for me because I go to town. I go to town anyway. So I'm trying to like get off the get it off my shaft, and while I'm doing it, he arrives. He arrives, and for those of you homosexuals that are watching this, you know, once the bottom arrives, show's over. Show is over. Curtain is closed most of the time. Although I've had one or two that I've been able to keep going on, but most of the time, there's that's it. That's it. And with this this adult this adult with this guy, he was like, he was ready to go. He was like, okay, I gotta go. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And then I was like running through the scenarios in my head. Can I hold him down? No, I'm just kidding. I would never, ever, ever, do anything, unconsensual. That's on record now. I would never, ever, ever do anything like that. Anyway, so I let him go, and while he was getting his clothes on, I'm like, thinking to myself, I probably should have asked this first. How old are you? And he's like, 19, and I'm like, thank you. So yeah, he was 19. I believe him too. He was either 18 or 19. I don't think he was definitely not under 18. Even if he was, I think the age of consent in Iowa is 16 or above. But my personal standard is 18. I usually like to maybe like go a little older because sometimes the 18-year-olds look too young for me. Anyway, this guy like I said, he looked youthful, very youthful, but also obviously physically mature. So it wasn't inappropriate or anything. And so I let him go, and I had a perma boner then for like an hour or something, and I couldn't find anybody else to come over, so I went to bed, and fuck me. So then today, I was doing stuff all day, and of course I hadn't arrived yesterday, and I still wanted to finish the job that I started yesterday. And so I was looking again, wasting time on Sniffies and Grinder, and hitting up all the remotely attractive ones, which are definitely less than whatever ChatGPT said a third of the total amount of gays is. There might be like 50 available in the area on those apps. Where the hell are all the other ones? Anyway, and like maybe 25 of them are remotely attractive. That's being generous. Anyway, we do have visitors come to town though. Des Moines is the capital of Iowa. So I was looking and looking and looking, and I had a couple nibbles, and then I had somebody in like Ames, some college guy in Ames said he was coming over, and he didn't come over, and it was a waste of time. And everybody couldn't do it right now, or they maybe later, and of course later means never. And so I'm just like, fuck, am I not gonna find anybody? And then finally, a 20-year-old messaged me and was like totally down. He didn't do any bullshit. It was like right away. He was ready to come over right away. And I'm like, where the fuck were you like 3 hours ago? So he comes over, and he's definitely, I mean, he was good looking, and he was like maybe like 10 or 15 pounds heavier than his pictures, so he had his freshman 15 or whatever for college. But I mean, he was still not bad looking. He didn't put any effort in before he came over, though. His hair was messy and, whatever. So he got undressed and got on the bed, and I was more than ready to go. And I was like thinking about the day before and thinking, I lasted a long time with that 19-year-old despite him being, like tight as a drum. And I thought, I might just start incorporating, because the 20-year-old didn't care. He wanted we didn't talk about condoms beforehand, but he was good either way. So I was like, I put on a Trojan E and Z because I wanted to, and I wanted to do it again. I wanted to, go from, because I mean he's 20, so I mean theoretically he could have had a lot of experience, but I was betting, and I was right that physically speaking, I could tell he hadn't had a lot of experience, but he had a little bit more than the 19-year-old. Anyway, I put the E and Z on, and it was like, I mean, I didn't really have a lot of trouble, not as much trouble as the day before, but I was doing my tactics, to make it easier for me. And as I was doing this, as I was doing my tactics, my deep dives in my, as I explained earlier, what you want to do, gentlemen, when you're doing it is you want to not only this, but you want to do this. Okay, you want to in and out and around, in and out and around, in and out and around. So you're like you're scraping the walls of the hole, okay? And hopefully it's a very clean hole. And so you're going around and you're going in and out, in and out. That's how you stretch a butthole or or a vagina. And the ladies love it too, especially if you have a big one. Well, I don't know what it's like to have a small one, but the ladies really like it when I do that. I that'll get you some callbacks if you've got a decent sized member, maybe a small one too. Actually, it might be really good if you have a small one, because it kind of, I mean, it's like it makes sense. It makes sense. Anyway, so I was doing that. I was I was I was doing my job basically, and unfortunately, the 20-year-old called uncle, because apparently I was doing too good of a job, which I was like, fuck, what the hell? So like I just assumed, I assumed I've been with too many slutty bottoms. Okay, I just assumed he wanted it, a good. I assumed he wanted a good pounding, for lack of a better way to put it. So I was trying to give him a good one, and I wanted it to be good too, because I was like all built up from the day before. So I was, hitting it hard and doing my moves, and he called uncle. He called uncle, and then he left. And I had another perma boner. Fuck me. Fuck me. Fuck me. So, yeah. So this was earlier in the night tonight. So I'm like, oh god damn it. 2 in a row. 2 in a row. And like I had one last week that couldn't take it, and he's like my age or like a year older. Really good looking guy. I would totally be his boyfriend if he wasn't, a giant slut and probably a tweaker. Anyway, so the 20-year-old left, and I'm like, I get back on Grindr and Sniffies, and like, fuck it. I am like, the standards have been lowered to, minimal, which excludes fatty fat still. And so I'm like, okay, where are the guys who will be very grateful? So I'm tapping, I'm hitting up anyone, anyone that is like remotely doable. And I'm like, I even the anon accounts. I'm like the anon account, no stats. Like if they don't tell me their age or their weight or their height, I message them. If they message me back, then I ask for it. So I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel, and I got a bite pretty early on. Five, I think it was 5'8", 5'7", one 160. He's a little overweight. 32. He looked like Ed Sheeran basically. So I mean, it was in a non account too, and I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have, you know, bothered. I wouldn't have. It wouldn't have been acceptable under normal circumstances. But this was not normal circumstances. Okay, this was 2 times in a row, and I was not going to bed tonight without, you know, arriving. So, I messaged him. I was like, I host. I want you to come over here. Bussy delivery. And he's like, okay. And then he comes over. No questions, because he had hit gold basically. Not to brag. Number one top in Des Moines. I say it on my profile. Most guys think I'm bullshitting them. I'm not. So he comes over, 32-year-old, Ed Sheeran looking motherfucker. So ginger, but like kind of a dumpy ginger, kind of a doesn't care about his looks ginger. One of the gays who have gotten laid so many times that he just doesn't give a shit about what he looks like, because guys like me will stoop to fucking them in a pinch, and they know it, so they don't put a lot of effort in. Anyway, so he comes over and he immediately he's down to go. It had been a few months from, because I ask every time. Um, he gets on the bed. He's in position immediately. He's good to go. He knows what's going on. He's 32. He's down. So I'm like, okay. I put on. I'm like, okay, this guy. I can go ham. I can go to town on this guy. And so I do. And I spent like 40 minutes. I've spent 40 minutes just. I don't want to say. I mean, it wasn't a chore, but I don't want to say enjoy. I spent 40 minutes doing this guy. You know, you know, for my own ego more than anything, and just like I wanted him to remember the experience, because he's what the kids call a mid. Okay, so I'm hitting it hard. I'm doing all the moves, pulling out all the stops. I'm wearing a Trojan ENZ, and and then like 30, 40, 50 minutes. I don't know how long. It was a while. I finally finished, and poor son of a bitch. He loved it though. Poor son of a bitch. He just laid there for about a few minutes. He couldn't stand up. That's when you know you do it right, by the way, fellas, when they can't stand up. So he stood up, and I asked him how it was, and he was like, I blew his mind. So I wanted to basically prove to myself and to him, that my claiming of the title number one top in Des Moines is legitimate, and I think I proved it, at least to myself, and to him too. Well, he said he'd never been done like that. So there you go. That's my story for that, and transitioning over to the second part of this video, which I think I've weeded out the casuals at this point, which was the point of my very long story. I am almost a genius, by the way. So tomorrow I have a conversation scheduled with a communist online, it's, I don't know if it's a, I don't want to really call it a debate. It sounds like we're just basically going to be explaining why we think our positions are better than the other. I don't really foresee debating because, I mean, we won't agree on anything. But yeah, anyway, when I was in high school, I know this sounds like a hard pivot, but a bad transition. But when I was in high school, in my sophomore year, I had a world history teacher. I don't remember his name, but he was a little bald man. Shut up. I am 5'8.5", and I am not like completely bald. He was a little bald man, and he was older. Shut up. I am not old. I am 40, and that is the new 30. And the 30 is the okay. Anyway, so he was a little bald man with a really good tan all the time. And he was completely checked out. It was a public high school. I went to a private K through 8 public high school, and world history teacher completely checked out. He didn't give a shit. Every time we went into class, it's like, okay, read this chapter, and then when you're done, you could just do whatever you want. And so, I would read the chapter, and then I would just, I don't know, doodle or look out the window or something, because who gives a fuck about world history? The rest of the world is lame and gay. Okay, Europe, more like you're gay. Canada's not even a real. Mexico, fuck that all. And anyway, world history, didn't give a shit about it, didn't pay attention, and it was reflected in my grades. I almost was like flunking out. Yeah, I was. And this guy didn't even give a shit about his tests. Like he said he would only grade us on our tests. He didn't provide any homework because he didn't want to check the homework. So he would for the tests he would basically write the answers on the board on the front of the class, and then he wanted us to write them down. And then on the test, he wanted us to write the answers down on the test, but we couldn't use any notes. So we actually had to like memorize, the world history, and then give him the answers that he gave us verbatim. He, in fact, would say verbatim. And I'm like, I didn't give a fuck. I didn't want to learn all that. I didn't want to read that and memorize. I have a really bad memory. I had a really bad memory at the time. It was my sophomore year in high school, and in about 1 or 2 months from that point, or actually 1 or 2 months from the time of the final, I was going to be, in the hospital having brain surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation for brain tumors. So that's my excuse for not being able to memorize is bullshit. Anyway, but I didn't memorize it, and I was like not doing well on tests. I was barely passing. I had like a D or a D minus, and he pulls me aside one day. When it was getting close to the final for the semester, and he's like, David, if you don't get a C or above on the final, you're going to fail the class, and then you're going to have to take it again because it's a required course. And I want you to know, I'm going to hand out the answers to the final. I think it was like 20 questions or something. And I'm going to hand out the answers to the final. I'm going to hand them out to you in paper form a few days before the final for everybody in the class. And I want you to memorize it and then just write the answers down, and then you'll pass, and I won't ever have to see you again, basically. And I'm just like, okay. I'm like, I'm not going to be able to remember that. And I was having really bad, brain tumor headaches at the time too, by the way. So that's another excuse. So, long story short, I typed out the answers, and I wore shorts to school for the first time, long shorts, and I taped the answers to one of my legs. And then while we were, taking the test, I just would look down, and copy the answer. And, to cover my tracks, I didn't get all of them right because, a smart cheater doesn't get an A. He gets a B, and I got a B, and I passed the class. Anyway, genius. Anyway, almost genius. Um, that being said, the point of that story in the previous story was to weed out the casuals. Um, I want to go over what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. I'm going to talk about um, how communism doesn't work, how socialism is dumb, and how capitalism works, and it's just the best way for a society, for humanity, to improve upon itself. So communism doesn't work. Capitalism rewards innovation and hard work. Um, People are incentivized to do the best that they can do and provide the most value that they can to other people. Businesses are always trying to stay on top by providing the lowest possible price at the highest possible quality. And if they have competition in a free market, uh, you're always going to get the best price and the best quality for anything and everything that you can want or need. My personal definition of socialism, yes, it's a personal definition, but it doesn't mean it's inaccurate. It's just a different way of describing what I'm talking about. My definition of socialism, because it's so slippery to pick out what it means. Could it mean the workers control the means of production, or is it free health care? They're both socialist. But anyway, my definition of socialist is it's a spectrum between capitalism and communism. Okay, so and you start with a little government. That's a little bit of socialism. So capitalism is like pure capitalism has no government, anarcho-capitalism. And then when you have a small government, a baby government, a libertarian government maybe, there's a little socialism there, because all governments require taxation, and taxation redistributes funds for the community. And so that's the path to socialism. And the further along the path you go on socialism, the closer you get to communism. Okay, that's a very broad definition of socialism, but that's the only way to encompass everything that is socialism. Okay, and so the guy that I'm debating, or not, I don't want to say debating, but like having a conversation with tomorrow, he expressed to me that he will be arguing for communism, Stalinism, Maoism, and I was thinking I was going to have to quibble with him about the definition of socialism, and pick apart how every little bit of socialism is stupid and whatever. But he's actually going to go with the communist position, Stalinism, Maoism, apparently, from what he told me about. And so what I'm going to do right now is what the history teacher that I was just talking about did to me. I'm going to give the answers to the test, or at least I'm going to give you guys my what I'm going to say tomorrow. And if he happens to see this, or if any of the idiot socialists see this, maybe I don't know, it would prepare them for what I'm about to say. But whatever. It's also practice for me. So why is communism bad? Well, I want to say duh. A centralized system, as with communism, it doesn't work on a large scale. On a smaller scale, as with socialism, the smaller the scale, the more likely it'll work. But for a nation, for a large nation, communism doesn't work, as China found out. The communists often cite modern day China as a success of communism, but that they're not really communists anymore. They're state capitalists, because they had to introduce market mechanisms into their economy in order for it not to continually collapse into a explosion of blood and turmoil and regression for all of time. So China eventually introduced state capitalism once they began trading with the United States, and now look at them. They're very wealthy, very powerful, or maybe they're a paper dragon, I don't know. But anyway, communism doesn't work and didn't work in the past. It's arguable that over 100 million people died as a result of communism and communism's inefficiencies. I could go and argue the moral route of communism, the taking away of liberty and freedom of individuals and forcing them to do, whatever the state tells them to do. But that aside, central planning simply does not work, especially on a larger scale. The market needs signals in order to function correctly, as China found out. Why do so many people starve under communism? Well, the market has no signals. The farmers are told, you need X amount of grain by the end of the season, and so some bureaucrat writes, okay, so all the people in this area of the country, all the people in this area of the country, all of the people in this area of the country need X amount of grain, Y amount of grain, Z amount of grain. And the farmers need to produce this amount of grain each season. And then, there's a drought, or there's some natural disaster, or something happens where the farmers, they can't meet their quota. So what happens? The tax man or whatever comes to the farmer's door, knocks on their door. Okay, where's your 15,000 tons of grain or whatever? And the farmer's like, well, I was only able to grow 12,000. And the farmer was expecting to grow 20,000 because he needed 5,000 for his little town and himself. And the centralized bureaucrat, he doesn't want to get in trouble, so he takes all of the farmers, grain or whatever, and so leaves the farmer with nothing, leaves the town with nothing, and they starve. They starve. And it happened over and over and over again, and people were eating themselves and rejecting, this insanity, and it never works out. Never works out. And you basically systemize death and failure. The illusion that is communism, the illusion that is socialism, is that people are equal. And society is to blame for inequality. And that is a lie. Some people are better looking. Some people are smarter than others. Some people have more drive. Some people are more talented. Some people have a 7-inch penis that is remarkably thick and can finish whenever they want to. And some people have, and can only last for a couple pumps. That's just the way it is, okay? And there's no mechanism, there's no centralized planning that can fix that. And when you try to redistribute, the wealth, the food, the taxes, the whatever, the health care, the housing, whatever, when you try to give to those without by taking from those who have, in your mind, an excess, you're not doing good. You are disrupting a natural mechanism in the world, in creation, in evolution. Because the sad fact of the matter is that no one wants to admit, other than me, is that evolution is real. The communist, the socialist, they cannot accept that. They cannot accept that evolution is real. That you need to let things happen as they will. You cannot force a round peg into a square hole. You cannot take people from Somalia. You can't take millions of people from Somalia, put them in the middle of the United States into a largely white state like Minnesota with an IQ of about 100, and these Somalians have an IQ of about 70, and it's not a result of where they grew up, a lack of schools, a lack of desks, a lack of books. Their IQ is due to where they are born, where they evolved, how they developed as a race of people, a group of people in their specific area of the world. There are genetic factors involved in every human being. And those genetic factors determine their intelligence level as well as their looks, their body, their ability to speak, their ability to process things in their mind, their talents, their desires even, in some respects, in most respects. And when you think in your mind that all of that can be paved over with centralized planning, or you can just throw enough money at it to fix it. You can give the little Somalian boy all the books he could ever need, all the things he could ever want, all of the resources he could ever dream of, and he will not become equivalent to the average Minnesotan. He will not become as intelligent because his intelligence is fixed, just like his skin color is fixed. Communists, socialists, progressives want to deny this because they think it makes them good people. They think preaching the bullshit that equality is not only the ideal, but being held back by a broken society. They think preaching that, believing that, makes them a good person, because if only they could fix everything the way they think they need to in order to equalize everything, if they could do that in their minds, they could fix all of the problems in the world. All of the Somalians in Minnesota and back in Somalia could be just as well off as people in Orange County, California, or New York City. The only thing that's missing from the equation is the resources, is the time, is the devotion to equalizing everything. And if we need to tax away the money from the productive people, from the people who provide value to society, and give it away to these low IQ people who produce zero value to society, who get welfare, nothing but welfare for generations and generations in their ghettos, living off the people who provide for others, living off other people's production of value. It's insane. It's insane. We've been doing it for decades, for generations. And people can't accept it. People cannot accept that it's a failure, even despite the massive death toll caused by communism. The blatant failures of socialism over and over and over again. There's no leg to stand on, intellectually speaking, when it comes to communism or socialism. All a communist has is rhetoric. All a socialist has is rhetoric and bullshit and feelings and ideals and words that they change the definition of in order to push their stupid agenda. They rewrap the package every time somebody opens the fucking package that is collectivism and sees that it's bullshit, that it's just a big pile of shit under all that wrapping paper. What do? They wrap it again and they try to give it away again. They try to sell it. Sell the bullshit again, in another word. It's not communism, it's socialism. It's not socialism, it's democratic socialism. It's not democratic socialism, it's progressivism. I'm a Democrat, not a liberal. I'm a liberal, but not like a libertarian liberal. I just, I'm liberal with my body and other people's money. That's what's liberal about me. Collectivism doesn't work under any guise. Communism, socialism, progressivism, it doesn't work. It doesn't work because people are different. People are born different. People are not equal. People are not born equal. They may be equal before God or their creator or the spaghetti monster in the sky, but they are not equal on this planet, in this reality, where we are right now. And that is a fact that no collectivist will ever admit to. And that is a fact a lot of people who aren't collectivists won't admit to. Your potential as an individual is limited. It is limited by your biology. It is limited by factors outside of your control and outside of the control of everyone on this planet. And collectivism, communism, socialism is just a long, long, long coping session that people cannot abandon, because abandoning it damages their ego and forces them to understand that evolution is real and that some people just need to be let go. That we just need to let the dodo birds die off. Let the endangered species go. Let the people who can't feed themselves, eat their mud cookies instead of giving them millions and billions of dollars, trying to prop them up because John Legend's Imagine is going and playing through their stupid collectivist head. Centralized planning fails time and time and time again. And it is amazing to me that anyone, stupid or genius, could possibly argue for it. And the fact that most of the socialists out there, most of the communists out there are educated and probably have a IQ level at or above, the average of 95 or 100 or whatever the fuck it is now, is just astounding. The level of brainwashing that has occurred since World War II is amazing to me, and humanity will probably never recover from the constant bullshit that they brought us. And by they, I mean the